we will start. We have about 75 to 90 minutes, depends on the speed of progress that we will have in the program. First of all, I want to really welcome everyone. The people that were invited are either volunteers in some capacities, different capacities of Givat Haviva, volunteers as board members and committee members in different countries, and some of our donors globally. And what we called it actually a virtual conference, mainly because this meeting is coming as a direct follow-up for the conference we held about 3 weeks ago in Tel Aviv, the annual conference of Givat Haviva, in which we both shared data, information, about some kind of a status report on some major indicators in Jewish-Arab relations. We will be sharing with you this information, but also we will be sharing with you how do we understand this data and what we intend to do about it. But we will also share with you some flavors of what happened actually during the conference, showing you some videos of the Minister of Interior who joined us, also video of member of Knesset Ayman Odeh, a couple of the kids that from Givat Haviva school that attended and participated. But mainly, we want to also have at the end a chance to maybe have some discussion time with you. Last year, we were very honored by having Ambassador of Germany to Israel, Stefan Seibert, who opened the conference with the presence of President Herzog, and he's honoring us also today by being an opening speaker in tonight's event. But before I give any further details, I'd like to ask Michal to give us the official opening, and she'll introduce the presentation of the ambassador. Go ahead, Michal. Michal is the CEO of Givat Haviva.
Thank you so much, Muhammad, and hi, everyone. It's so great to see familiar and friendly faces. We're very, very happy, as Muhammad said, that we have this opportunity to show you and to present to you the content and the important speeches that were given in our conference. But it's also important to acknowledge the fact that this was a very, very hard day in Israel today. Today was the funeral of the Bivas family, Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir. And also later this night, 4 bodies of hostages are going to be released, and in return or in exchange of the release of 620 Palestinian prisoners that were supposed to be released last week. So it's also important to keep that in mind, because a lot of the work that we're doing is in this context, which make it even, I think, even more important, but also very difficult to do. But I want to open this gathering introducing to you a very, very dear friend of Givat Haviva and also mine and Muhammad's, the Ambassador of Germany to Israel, Mr. Stefan Seibert. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us here, for giving the opening remarks.
Yeah, all right. Michal, Mohammed, thank you so much. It's a tremendous honor for me to be asked to take a few minutes of your time. I will be brief, and it's not really a presentation because I haven't really prepared anything, but I was asked to maybe speak a little about how I see Givat Haviva, its role in society, and where society stands as far as Jewish-Arab relations are concerned. Quite bluntly and upfront, to me, Givat Haviva is one of the great places of hope in this country. A place where, in an exemplary fashion, relations between Jews and Arabs are lived, I would say, experienced, are at the heart of the education that goes on there. And all that's happening in a way that really should be the way of the land everywhere, but we all know that there are not that many places who practice this. And in that sense, it really is an exemplary place. I was extremely impressed, and I keep coming back to this when I went to Givat Haviva. I think it was in November or something of 23, and you had just had a whole large group of evacuees from the north, where from the Lebanese border and from the kibbutzim in the south. Jewish people who had lost their homes, who didn't know where to go. They needed a place to stay. They had children. They were completely lost. And they found a place in Givat Haviva, and they found this place, and this was so beautiful for me to see, where both Jews and Arabs took good care of them. And you told me, Michal, that this was not easy from the start, that for some of the evacuees, it was difficult to hear Arabic spoken around them. So it's not something that can be taken for granted, but you made it work. And I think it became a beautiful experience for everyone. When I spoke to the people especially from the north, but also from Sderot, they said how much how much of a deep and really mind-changing experience this was to them, to be welcomed with such hospitality and generousness by people who were both Jewish and Arab. So this is something I think that really speaks for what you are as a place and for the values that you instill. When you listen to the official narrative on Jewish-Arab relations in Israel, then mostly, especially since October 7th, it's all good. We're all brothers and sisters. We're a diverse nation, and look how everyone has its place. This is very much the official narrative. And it's a case, I think, of the glass half full and the glass half empty. Yes, I mean, you see enormous social progress. You see an integration of Arab Israelis, or, those who call themselves Palestinian Israelis. Some, choose this, some choose the other, in the media, in the economy, in the medical field, in the health industry. All this is probably way more than 20 or 40 years ago. So yes, in that sense, the glass is half full. But of course, you also see, and especially since the 7th of October, or you don't see it, you hear that there is a silence. And when you then scratch the surface and you speak to Arab Israelis, they will very often tell you of their fear, of their apprehensions, what could happen if they speak up, if they speak their minds openly, what has happened to some Arab Israelis when they posted certain posts online, showing sympathy for the many thousand of people killed in Gaza. You don't necessarily have to post Hamas sympathy, in your posts to get into real trouble, and people know that. So there are many Arab Israelis that have spoken to me, and they say, "Listen, we're holding back. We don't feel comfortable expressing ourselves. We feel that this is very difficult to do, both in the workplace as well as online." So it's not that everything is good, and it's not that the full equality of Arab and Jewish Israelis has already been reached, where people are willing and able to speak openly and also to listen to the others. When you look at politics in this country, it is very much not a shared society. It is very much Jews in one part of the parties and Arabs in the other parties. I'm still hoping for a mixed kind of party to emerge, but this really hasn't happened yet in any big way. When you look at civil society, I think there are some very interesting things going on. And also since October 7th, I think we are seeing that especially young Israelis are getting engaged, are committing themselves to going forward together. When I look at something like Omdim Beyachad, standing together, an organization that also gives me much hope, the core of their belief is that we can only do it together. Jews and Arabs in this country need to work together, need to show that they can work together. and need to change society step by step, bit by bit. This is something that we're seeing in civil society, but we're not seeing it in the political sphere yet. And I think this is something that really is lacking, and I hope there will be more. At a time as now, when there are hardly any, if probably no contacts at all across the Green Line between, people in Israel and people in the occupied territories, let alone political conversations, political talks. At a time like that, I think it is really important to work on and improve Jewish-Arab relations within Israel, within the Green Line. I think it's really important, and everything that can be done to further and support this idea of shared society in a practical way should be done. It could later on, when we're hopefully in a more promising political environment where people actually can meet and talk again across the Green Line, then I think the role of Arab Israelis and Jewish Israelis here in Israel, who already have established not only contact but really deep working relationships with one another, and maybe a joint political purpose, I think that role will be very important. But we're not there yet. So the important thing right now is to work on that and to do everything to achieve what in the official narrative already exists, which is a state where all citizens are equal, all citizens enjoy a life in dignity and sovereignty and can play their role in society. We're not quite there yet, I think. I just want to say, in my closing remarks, maybe, I think it's great. I don't know, who's out there, who all these people are, but it seems like Givat Haviva can count on a lot of support in many countries, and I think this is really good, great. You people, that you support them, that you keep doing that, do it more. I'm very worried right now, and that's my last thought. I'm very worried right now how this government is about to deal, or this Knesset, this parliament, is about to deal with civil society and the NGOs that work out of civil society. There is a law in the Knesset which will tax any foreign donation, any foreign funds coming to NGOs in this country by 80%. If this goes through, it will kill civil society, NGOs, as we know it. This does not refer to private donations, but it does refer to anything coming from a state, anything coming from state institutions. I'm saying this because for Germany, this would change things very much. We support many projects and many initiatives and many NGOs in this country with money coming from either one of our ministries or one of our political foundations. This kind of thing is under severe threat, so I can only ask you to lobby your politicians so that they speak to the Israeli politicians. I think that a very important and vital part of civil society, and that means of liberal democracy in this country, is under a certain threat right now. And we should at least make our voices heard. Whether we can achieve the change we want to see in this law, I'm not sure, but we should make our voices heard. So that's all from me, but thank you very much, and keep up the good work. I look forward to my next visit.
Thank you, Ambassador.
So Michal will now tell us a few minutes. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Michal will give us a few more comments about what happened in the conference, and then we will get a couple of some taste by 2 short videos, and then we'll present the data that we shared with everyone. Michal?
I think that the most important aspect of our conference every year, actually, but also this year, is that that's the main and largest conference dealing with shared society issues. So usually every year, people, they think about the relations between Jews and Arabs within Israel, they think about shared society, they think about equality, but it's not the case since October 7th, right? We're very, very far from being, I don't know, in the headlines or like the main issue people talk about. And of course, we all understand it. But it doesn't mean that it's not as important as it was before the 7th. And even it can, some can say it can even be more important after the 7th, because we all thought that we're going to see violence within Israel, between Jews and Arabs, and we didn't. And we worked a lot in civil society, in Givat Haviva, but also with other organizations to try to prevent violence and to try to keep things calm, although the government did whatever they could to incite violence between Jews and Arabs within Israel. So we still think it's very, very important to keep this subject in the public sphere, in the public discourse, because people and leaders need to talk about it, they need to think about it, and they need to express themselves. I think that the most important thing that happened in this conference is the speech that the Minister of Interior gave. He's a part of the coalition, the only part of the coalition of the government that actually attended the conference. And he said things that are, you're going to watch this video and this speech, but he said things that made all of the media talk about him, talk about his speech, talk about what he said in Givat Haviva's conference. And that's super important, because it's very, very hard to get something out of this government, something positive from this government. So I think that's our role in that sense. And also another thing that I think was very important is to give a stage to the activities that we do have in Givat Haviva, to give a stage and to give room for educators like Dr. Yuval Dvir. He's going to speak with us this evening, the head of our international school. Also to give the stage for the students of the international school to talk a bit about how young Jewish students and Arab students can live together in the same campus, in the same boarding school, to share a room, how we can manage this chaos and horrible situation from an educational point of view. That's our intention every year, and I think that this year, Muhammad, we're very, very proud of the outcome, and it was a positive peak for Givat Haviva this year.
Let me just share my screen so you can see the videos.
אנחנו לגלות שהחברה הישראלית, היהודית והערבית כאחד, הוכיחה חוסן רב. לצד הכאב והקושי שכולנו חווים, אנו רואים דוגמאות של שיתוף פעולה חיובי, ויחסים בוני אמון בין האוכלוסיות. השיח המשותף, פרויקטים משותפים, מחויבות הדדית, הם עדות לכך שיש בנו כוח להושיט יד זה לזה, גם כאשר האתגרים סביבנו נראים מאיימים. חובת כל הרשויות לנהוג בכבוד ובשוויון, כלפי כל אזרח ואזרח. יהודים וערבים, נוצרים, דרוזים, צ'רקסים, כולם כאחד. החלטות של אי שוויון ושלילת אזרחות של ערביי ישראל מרסקות את מרקם החיים המשותפים במדינה, פוגעות בכבודם ובזכותם החוקתית והיהודית לשוויון של אזרחים ומשחקות לידי אויבינו. עמדתי הידועה והברורה גם ביחס לכניסתם של פועלים פלסטינים לעבודה בישראל נאמרה בפומבי ונאמרה גם לראש הממשלה, צריכים לאפשר לאנשים חיים, פרנסה ותקווה. צריכים לעשות את זה, ויפה שעה אחת קודם. עלינו להוביל את השיח למקום של הבנה, של שיתוף פעולה, למקום שבו אנחנו לא רק מדברים על ההבדלים, גם מקדמים גישור. מנהיגות אמיצה היא זו שתשמור על ערכים של סובלנות, של צדק, של שוויון, ותתמקד בבניית חברה מאוחדת. על כל אחד ואחת מאיתנו לשאת באחריות, להעביר דוגמה ומופת עבור אחרים. היום יותר מתמיד, אנחנו צריכים להירתם למען עתיד טוב יותר, שבו בני אדם, מעבר לגבולות של דת, גזע, מעמד, אתניות, יכולים ורוצים וצריכים לחיות זה לצד זה, בכבוד, בנחישות ובאהבה. אני מזמין אתכם, כל אחד ואחת מכן, וכמובן לקראת חודש הרמדאן המבורך שיבוא עלינו בעוד חודש, ממש בתחילת מרץ, להיות חלק מתוך ההליך הזה. בואו יחד, נפתח שערים לאפשרויות חדשות ונבנה יחד חברה יציבה, חברה מתקדמת ומשגשגת לכולנו. תודה רבה.
Now I'll I'll move over to Ayman Uda. Is that okay? Or Muhammad, do you want to, Michal, mention anything?
Yes. Now go ahead and move to the next video.
לפני שבועיים הייתי בבית ספר בירושלים. אחרי שסיימתי את ההרצאה עם התלמידים, אמרו לי, באמת הערבים חושבים כך? באמת הערבים רוצים שלום? רוב מוחץ גדול 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 מהחברה הישראלית היהודית לא מבין את האוכלוסייה הערבית, מה עבר עליה בשנה האחרונה. הם לא מבינים. אתם לא יודעים כמה נקרענו מהזוועות שראינו בעזה. אתם לא מתארים לעצמכם. ממשלת ישראל ביצעה פשעים נוראיים בעזה. תפנימו את זה טוב מאוד. תבינו ששני העמים בשנות ה-90 בחרו בשלום, ושני העמים שוב יכולים לבחור בשלום. חייבים להכיר אחד בשני, חייבים להכיר בזכויות הלאומיות של שני העמים. אנחנו רוצים חיים משותפים על בסיס של כבוד בין שני העמים. אין דרך אחרת, חברים.
איימן עודה, תודה רבה.
תודה רבה לכם. שוכרן ג'זירן.
Okay, so this was a little bit of a taste of the program that we had. I think we had something like 20 different speakers, very long, I would say not too long actually. It was about 5-hour program, but very condensed, and also a lot of different perspectives. We tried to bring not just the usual suspects that would be speaking for Jewish-Arab relations, but people that you wouldn't be thinking that they will be presenting the issue of Jewish-Arab relations and be considered among our main supporters. You know, you probably will hear me and you will hear Michal and other speakers from Givat Haviva do make the argument in favor of shared society, but it's good to borrow also the intellect of other leaders from both the Jewish community, as the Minister of Interior from Shas, which is a religious, ultra-religious party in the coalition, but also from Ayman Odi, one of the top leaders within the Arab community. We're going to move to show you some of the data that we have. Edin, can you share, please, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation? And I will go. We're only going to have 4 slides that show trends, and the slides actually do some kind of comparison between the data that we discovered today versus the data that was presented a year ago. We wanted to see a certain direction. One of the most important and actually very troubling pieces of data is this slide, which tries to examine the level of mistrust, the negative feelings that have evolved in Jewish-Arab relations over the last 16 months. You can see that in January last year, 24, the level of mistrust of Jews towards the level of mistrust of Jews towards Arab citizens was 62%. This grew to 72%. This grew to 72%. That's a 10-point increase. Among Arab citizens, mistrust of Jews has grown from 28% to 43%. In both cases, there is a significant rise, but if you compare this data with the same question asked in the year 23, in our annual conference in May 23, the mistrust level among Jews towards Arabs and among Arabs towards Jews has pretty much doubled, which basically says our subject matter, our problem that we try to deal with at Givat Haviva has doubled. More Arab citizens, not just more, almost twice twice more the Jewish citizens mistrust Arab citizens, and twice more the Arab citizens mistrust Jews. It did not stop there. It did not stop only a year ago. So it was not just the impact of the October 2000 first 2-3 months, but the last year we've accumulated a lot of damage in Jewish-Arab relations. This has resulted clearly from not just the incidents of the war, but also, as Michal has alluded to this, some statements that were made by some leaders, sometimes from Jewish leaders, sometimes people in government, ministers, but also some actions of the police that treated Arab citizens as an extension of the enemy, managed to create a great deal of fear and plant a great deal of polarization between both communities. Next slide, please. The next slide is looking at, we're comparing also with the survey of 24. We compared to the previous survey. We see that about half of the Arab citizens expressed that they experienced hostility over the last year, and you see that the feeling of hostility is increasing. Among Jews, they say in last year, 23% said that after the recent year events, their sense or change in expressions of hostility towards them by Arabs has increased from 23% to 34%. The Arab citizens feel that they feel the hostility from the Jewish citizens also dramatically. Actually, if you combine both red together, among Jews, it's the total used to be 38%. Today, we are at about 49% of the Israeli Jews saying that they felt hostility from the other side. Among Arab citizens, the increase is from 34% to a total of 42%. So hostility has increased, the sense or the feeling of hostility from the other side has increased by about 50%, more or less among both sides. And you see that even those that didn't have an opinion before, their perspectives got reduced. So 21% of the Jews, the right green, who didn't have a perspective before, today that shrank to only 14%. And most of that population went to saying, yes, they feel hostility from the other side. Among Arab citizens, 37% did not have an opinion. That shrinked to 29%. And that 8% moved to a place that they feel that they felt hostility. Again, our subject matter is getting much more difficult. Polarization, fear among both sides is increasing. Our problem is, as I said earlier, is more than doubling. Next slide, please. Here we went to 4 different categories. We asked if you would be willing for yourself or close relative to be in contact with a Jewish/Arab citizen of Israel in each of one of these 4 categories. The first category in the light green, it's friendship. Are you willing to be in friendship with other? So you see that among Jews in 24, 33% were willing to be in friendship. Today, that shrunk to 27%. Among Arab citizens, that used to be 62%. It dropped to 53%. The second category was working together. There's more interest among Jews of working together, but that used to be in 24, 53%. It dropped likely to 49%. Among Arab citizens, that used to be 72%. Again, here it dropped likely to 68%. The third category, are you willing to study together with someone from the other side at university? In 24, 47% of the Jews said yes. Now it's 44%. Among Arab citizens, it dropped from 72% to 67%. The fourth category is shared children's activities. Basically, stuff similar to Givat Haviva's work. Educational activities, going to kindergarten together, doing social activities together. Among Jews, there's no change. It used to be 30%. Among Arabs, also, there's no change. It is at 57%. So you see that in all indicators, actually, the percentage of favorable, positive results are still high in the Arab community. All of them are above 50%. Among the Jewish population, only in all four categories this year in 25, all of them are below 50%. And some of them are at a very low level, such as in friendships and in children's activities. The turquoise or the blue and the red, they're basically places in which people work together, study together. What you've heard us say in the past saying, mutual interests. Wherever you have mutual interests, there is more willingness to engage with each other. You see it in both Arab and Jewish citizens. When it comes to socialization, which is more the social contact theory, you have less numbers. That's the green and the light green and the dark green. In the social interaction, people have less of motivation to engage in social interaction, but in studying and working together, we still have those as what we call still safe havens in which we can still build on for the future. The next slide. Here we want to examine the phenomena that occurred with the previous government. That was the integration of an Arab political party in the coalition. In 23, the rates were very high and they kept dropping. Among Jewish citizens, we see an increasing number that is opposing the integration of an Arab political party in a future government coalition. In January 24, 62% of Jews opposed it, and now 67% oppose it. 30% supported it, and now only 25% of the Jewish population support the integration of an Arab political party in a future coalition. Here we're feeling the exact opposite dynamics that is happening in the Arab community. Among Arab citizens, the opposition stayed the same at 16%, but there is an increase among those that want an Arab political party to join a future coalition. It jumped from 52% to 57%. Both the dark green, the dark green is showing the positive indications, but in both cases, we're looking at much lower numbers than what we had in our conference in May 23. Then the numbers were much, much higher. Among Jews, it was about 50% support. Among Arab citizens, it was about 70% support. Now we dropped to 25% support among the Jewish citizens and 57% support among Arab citizens. Now, I'll say a few sentences. We can take this off, and then I will ask my colleague Yuval to also respond on this. As I said earlier, the first lesson learned for us is that our problem has doubled, which means our capacity as an which means the work and the society organizations have to double. About how we understand this data. But what we take is the lessons that we need to expand our capacity to engage in increasing the willingness in both sides to want to be in some kind of a partnership. We understand the reasons that the cross-border Israeli-Palestinian conflict is actually beaming negative energy in Jewish-Arab relations in Israel. The cross-border Israeli-Palestinian conflict, there is the more tension there is within among Jewish and Arab citizens. All that said, we are also we see that there is reality that it's not sliding into violence. Many were expecting this tension to grow, and it is fulfilling the expectation. But many were expecting that this tension that these slides are showing will translate itself into another front of physical confrontations between Jewish and Arab citizens, maybe similar to the May 21, the clashes in mixed cities, or even October 2000, when in those cases there were also casualties and there was physical clashes sometimes between Jewish and Arab citizens in mixed cities and sometimes between the police and Arab citizens. So there is something keeping both communities from sliding into violence despite the very high level of tension. So that's the half full of the cup. The half empty is what I shared with you. The half full is that we still have enough capacity, enough stamina to not to slide into negative directions, which means that the potential of healing from this tension that we are discovering today will be easier than what we've experienced if we go through violent cycles. As an organization that is trying to focus on the hope, as the ambassador said, we're not only looking at hope, we're trying to make hope. And making hope means work plans that we need to come with in order to fix the situation. Now, the reason we ask those difficult questions is because we want to be realistic in our programming. We want to understand reality as is and not just to beautify it. We're not just in selling the dream of peace and good relations between Jews and Arabs. We don't need anyone actually to tell us what reality is. And we're the only ones assessing it. We're really telling ourselves and the world, this is the real problem. Here it is. We look at the devil in its eyes, and we call it the devil, and we come with practical solutions on how to manage those kind of things. Michal later will share with us some of the specifics. We'll go into numbers of what we do and how we do, what kind of programs that we adapted in order to be able to deal with this reality. But I will end again with our subject matter, our problem, the issue that Givat Haviva has been dealing with for the last 76 years, or 76 years, has more than doubled, which means that we need to double our work and we need to double our capacity of engagement, at least in the 4 arenas. The one arena is the educational arena, and that's where we mostly do our work, but also in mutual interests in the workplace, at universities, and in pairing partnerships between Jewish and Arab neighboring towns. I'll stop here. I'll ask my colleague Yuval Dvir, the director of the principal of the United Givat Haviva International High School. He was also presenter in the conference, and he's one of the top leaders at Givat Haviva. United has 150 students. 1/3 are Israeli Jewish, 1/3 are Israeli Arab, 1/3 are international students from 27 different countries. Dr. Yuval Dvir, the floor is yours to comment on the results of the poll and whatever else you want to share us from your wisdom.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. So I'd like to share just a few perspectives on the survey's findings. And I'll begin by saying that in a way, the findings are not very surprising. There is a dramatic period in Israel. There is war. There's political instability. And obviously, this causes polarization within the Israeli society and mostly between the Jewish society and the Arab society. But I want to share a few thoughts about how can we look at these findings and maybe broaden our perspectives. The first thing I want to say is just to remind ourselves that mostly we live separately, the Jewish and the Arab Palestinian society in Israel. There are shared cities. Yes, we have several shared cities, but mostly we live separately. So the level of interaction, daily interaction between Jews and Arabs in most cases is very, very minor, which means that the data we have of each other, the way we shape our perceptions is really, really connected to the media and also to social media, which is maybe not the best way to decide what we feel about each other. But it's obviously has a very strong impact about the perceptions in the overall public and also the overall norms. And what I'd like to suggest here is that because of the dramatic events we're experiencing between Israel and Gaza, between Israel and other countries, and within Israel and the political system, sometimes very minor things get blown away within the media as very dramatic just to attract attention. And these things are usually connected to the relationship between Jews and Arabs, and they do shape perception. So in a way, there is a bias here, which is because of our dependency, or most of the Israeli public's dependency on social media and less on direct social interaction. The second thing I'd like to make a comment on is that I feel maybe I'm speaking only on behalf of myself, but I think I'm actually also speaking on behalf of many people in Israel, is that the Israeli public is very tired after several years of really dramatic events, as we've said. Many people would like to have more stability. Many people would like to have more time for, some free time, not with awful news as we almost every day have, and maybe stay more close by with family and friends, and sticking with the familiar, which means that sometimes thinking about developing new relationships or social relationships with the other is not maybe the thing that many people would prefer doing right now. And I see this all around me. People are sticking to what they know. They want the stability, and maybe it's not all about the Jewish and Arab population in Israel. Maybe this is a part of what we feel as a society. We're looking for a more relaxed space and a more relaxed reality. And this also brings me to one other finding in the survey, which was about the desire to see a joint coalition between Jews and Arabs. And I would like to suggest that, and here again, I represent myself, but maybe others as well, when I say that people feel that the coalition of the change government was very good, pioneering, and necessary in its nature. And at the same time, the reality shows that it caused a lot of political instability in Israel. And there are many politicians saying that should a mixed coalition government form again, the political instability will continue. And while I think that many Israelis would like to see this joint Jewish or Palestinian coalition form, people again would like to see political stability. So maybe this is not only just whether or not we are on the Jewish or Palestinian side. It also may have something to do with the wish for political stability. So these were just very few perspectives on how we can interpret the survey's findings. And I'll end by sharing with you something which I feel is very meaningful, and I see it happening more and more now. This year, I'm participating in 3 circles of school principals in different frameworks, but all connected to the Ministry of Education. And these circles are mixed in between Jews and non-Palestinians. And after participating in such activities for almost a decade now, I'm actually quite amazed this year to see how much openness and honesty is felt within these rooms. It's almost as if people started feeling that talking about what they really think and feel is really necessary. So we would start working, and in each of these groups, we've started working at the beginning of the year, so this is already 6 months into the process, and these circles meet every 2 weeks, sort of. This is the kind of tendency that we have. Right from the start, things are said directly. People do not hesitate to share the critical opinion, and when things are said in an honest way, there is so much learning in it. and I speak with the principals before and after the meetings, and I see that there is a process of change in the way they perceive each other and in the way they perceive the challenges seen by others and about what we need to do in Israeli society. And I must say that this keeps me very optimistic. And one of these circles is actually formed by Givat Haviva, which is a pioneering program for Givat Haviva, and I know it's going to grow. So I just want to end up by saying that although we are experiencing quite radical events and we have a lot of work ahead of us, I think we are hitting the nail on the top. We are doing the things that actually generate the interaction, the personal interaction between people. And when the interaction happens, I feel that the people are not even close to what we've seen in the survey, but in a much more positive perspective of each other. And if we keep on doing that, I also believe that this is the new route for a better Israeli society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuval. Yuval will be with us for the Q&A part or the discussion part. We still have a couple of things that we want to share with you. But for those that have inquired in the chat or sometimes in private chats, the next conference of Givat Haviva will be on the 11th of February 2026. So you can mark this in your calendars. In the summary of today, the email that Sadie will send you, including the presentation that I shared with you, she will also make a reference to the 11th of February as the next conference. Hopefully there will be no COVID and there will be no war. So we will have a physical conference at Givat Haviva campus, and we'd like to see all of you attend both that one-day conference that we will be open to the local population here also in Israel, but we had a couple of more days for a special tour to Givat Haviva programs and activities in English. So it'll be a total of about 3 days for the international participants, the day around the 11th of February 2026. Michal will share with you now Givat Haviva in numbers, where we are today, and then we will see another taste from the conference, and then we will speak about the strategy of Givat Haviva to improve the situation. Go ahead, Michal.
Thank you, Muhammad. And then do we have the slide? Great, thank you. So we're just taking a step back from the conference for a second, just to talk a bit about 2024 and how we can sum it up. So 2024 was a very challenging year. Okay, October 7th is the end of 23. Basically, most of the war was in 2024. Most of the time, the education system in the south and in the north didn't function at all. And it affects Givat Haviva because it affects our students. And in the rest of the country, it did function, but not as usual. All in all, we had almost 30,000 participants in Givat Haviva's programs during 2024. 47% of them, so like half of them were general public and half of them were students and youth. I think it's very important because it is different from any other year that 50% of the participants are not students and youth. Basically, it means that it's educators, teachers, educators, and principals, but also young leaders. As you know, and I think we already talked about it, few months after October 7th, we understood that we cannot just continue engage only with youth and people until the age of 18, because actually the process of education continues after you turn 18, as we all know. So we established a leadership department with 3 programs, and it was and it was quite successful. So we had dozens of participants, of people who we considered the future leaders of Israel in all kind of fields, like politics and media and in the municipal level, attending our program. So that's the 50% of the general public. We also reached, we don't have it in this slide, but I have it in my slide, just a minute. We also reached, oh, here it is. Sorry, I thought there's only one slide, Eden. I'm sorry. So we reached 142 schools. That's the general number, but also another thing that you need to bear in mind that Israel is pretty small. So for instance, only in our Hebrew-speaking program, we have 50 schools, 50 junior high schools in the Arab community, and that's about a third of all of the junior high schools in the Arab community in Israel. So it's pretty influential. We had 2,000 teachers and professionals and activists attending our programs in 85 courses, programs, and training sessions. And another thing that is quite new, or newish for Givat Haviva, is that we really emphasize the importance of events and professional conferences. So we had 23 of them in 24. That's a nice number for us. One of them is the annual conference, but we also had a Hebrew-speaking conference and an education conference and an art and shared society conference, and also a conference about football, because that's another new program that we have about racism in the football courts or soccer courts in Israel. So we really try to tackle shared society from all kind of levels and to keep it in the public eye. It also helps us a lot with working with the government. The fact that we're in the public eye, that they hear about us, that they see us in the media in Israel, it helps us to work with them. And I'm not talking about the politicians in the government, but government officials and ministries that we're working with. So that's the year that we had, and we hope that 2025, finger crossed, will be a bit easier and that we can grow and we can go back to semi-normal life here in Givat Haviva.
Great. Thank you, Michal. We're going to go for another taste from the conference, something that started to give hope when we actually saw them. Two kids, one Arab, one Jewish kid that go to our international school on campus. So let's see the video. Eden?
אז בית הספר שלנו הוא בית ספר בינלאומי. כל הלימודים, אנגלית, והאוכלוסייה של התלמידים מתחלקת שליש יהודים מהארץ, שליש ערבים מהארץ, ושליש תלמידים בינלאומיים שמגיעים מבערך 25 ארצות. ואנחנו רוצים לדבר איתכם קצת על הבית ספר שלנו, מה אנחנו עושים, ולמה אנחנו מרגישים שזה מקום כל כך חשוב בארץ הזאת, ובמיוחד בתקופה האחרונה.
אני הדי נסאר, אני נער ילד מוסלמי בכפר זוהם בצפון, בן 16.
אני אורי, בת 16 בכיתה י"א. אני מקיבוץ נירים שבעוטף עזה.
נולדתי למשפחה שתמיד חינכה אותי לשאוף לדו-קיום, וכבר מגיל צעיר, בגיל 3 או 4 שנים, הם התחילו ללמד אותי עברית, ודיברתי עברית וערבית באותה רמה. והבנתי אין לי מוסד אקדמי שממש יממש את הפוטנציאל שלי באזור הכפר, בכפר טורעאן. אז עברתי לגבעת חביבה.
גדלתי במשפחה שמאמינה בחברה משותפת, ובאיזשהו שלב אמרתי לעצמי שאי אפשר להמשיך רק לדבר בספר הבינלאומי.
הרב תרבותיות בבית ספר שלנו עוזר לנו להתגבר על דברים מאוד מאוד קשים. ועכשיו אנחנו רוצים לספר לכם קצת על החוויה שלנו ב7 לאוקטובר ומאז.
7 לאוקטובר הייתי בקיבוץ, והמשפחה שלי הייתה מפוזרת ב4 בתים שונים בקיבוץ. הייתי בבית עם אמא שלי ועם אח שלי ועם בעלה, וב6:30 היא העירה אותי, חשבתי שהכל כרגיל, אפילו לא לקחתי איתי את הטלפון לממ"ד. והגענו לממ"ד והבנו ששום דבר לא כרגיל. היינו בקיבוץ 36 שעות, כשבחוץ יש מחבלים שבוזזים וגונבים ורוצחים וחוטפים וצועקים. ובתוך כל השיגעון הזה אחד מהדברים היחידים שהצלחתי לחשוב עליהם, זה הלוואי שהייתי יכולה להתקשר להדי ולבקש ממנו שיתרגם לי את מה שקורה בחוץ.
אבל היא שנאה אותי כל היום, לצערי.
בסדר, לא היה לי טלפון.
אני בשביעית לא יכולתי לעשות שום דבר חוץ מלשבת מול הטלוויזיה ולקוות לטוב, אבל באותו רגע הבנתי שאני הצטרפתי לבית ספר בינלאומי, ואנחנו הצטרפנו בספטמבר 23. אנחנו רק חודש בתוך הבלגן הזה. אבל באותו רגע הבנתי שאני חייב לחזור לבית ספר, כי נפל לי האסימון שאני הנציג של החברה הערבית, ובדגש הנציג של החברה המוסלמית בבית ספר שלי. וכל מה שאני הולך לעשות, כל מה שאני הולך לדבר, אני הולך לייצג את החברה שלי. וידעתי שהולך להיות אי אימון, הולך להיות מתח בין התלמידים, וידעתי שאני חייב לחזור, כי אני יכול להיות חבר של כולם ויכול לגשר על הפערים האלה. גם כשאני חוזר לכפר שלי לפעמים, אני מדבר עם חברים שלי, חברים צעירים יותר, ומנסה להסביר להם שהיהודים הם לא אויבים שלך. כולנו גרים בארץ הזאת, כולנו רוצים שלום פה, ואף אחד לא רוצה להרוג אותך. ואני תמיד מנסה להראות להם סרטונים מהבית ספר ולשכנע אותם, ואיבדתי כמה חברים, אבל זה עובד לטובת עכשיו.
גם אני החלטתי לחזור לבית ספר אחרי 7 באוקטובר, כי למרות שהכרנו בסך הכל חודש, הקשרים שיצרתי בבית ספר עם תלמידים ואנשים שבחיים לא הייתי חושבת שאפילו הייתי במעגל איתם, היו כל כך חזקים וכל כך שונים וכל כך שינו לי את התפיסה של העולם, וידעתי שאם אני לא אחזור לבית ספר, במיוחד בתקופה הכל כך רגישה של אחרי 7, אני אסגר לאנשים שונים ודעות שונות, וזו באמת הייתה אחת ההחלטות הכי טובות שלי.
אני לא רוצה להעמיד פנים שהיה מעבר קל אחרי שחזרנו מ7 לאוקטובר. זה היה קשה מאוד. היו ימים שאני יורד לחדר אוכל, ואני פשוט מסתכל על השולחן של השכבה שלנו, והיה שולחן מפוצל לשניים. חלק אחד של יהודים וחלק אחד של ערבים. ואני תמיד ניסיתי לשבת באמצע ביניהם ולנהל שיחה באנגלית כדי להנגיש את כולם, וזה לא עבד בהתחלה כמה פעמים, אבל אחר כך זה עבד, ואתם יכולים לבוא ולהסתכל עלינו עכשיו.
וגם אני יכולה לומר בתור תלמידה יהודייה, הגעתי לבית ספר והיו המון תלמידים ערבים שלובשים כפיות, ולי ולהרבה מהחברים שלי זה היה נראה כמו סמל של אלימות ושל טרור וסמל מפחיד. ועכשיו כשאני חושבת על התפיסה הזאת שהייתה לי לפני 1.5 שנה, זה מרגיש לי כל כך שונה, כי ברגע שמכירים את האנשים באמת הקונוטציות האלה נעלמות. וגם ב8 לאוקטובר הגיעו לגבעת חביבה מאות מפונים מאשקלון שעברו בדיוק דבר נורא. מבחינתם הערבים זה האויב, והם הגיעו לקמפוס שגרים בו 100 ערבים, 200 ערבים.
ושם אני גם, לפי דעתי, הצלחתי לחולל שינוי קטן. הייתי גוי של שבת אצל כמה מהמשפחות שם. עזרתי להם לחמם דברים, להדליק תור, לכבות תור. השפעתי קצת, דיברתי איתם. אז חיללתי שינוי גם שם. אני גאה בזה.
אני במועצת תלמידים, לפני בערך חודשיים, ארגנתי הפגנה, שכל התלמידים היו מוזמנים אליה בשער של גבעת חביבה. וההפגנה הייתה לסיום המלחמה ולהחזרת החטופים. וחשבתי שהגיעו 20 תלמידים, וה20 תלמידים האלה יהיו רק יהודים, אבל פתאום אני רואה ערבים עם כפיות, עם דגלים צהובים ושלטים שכתוב עליהם תחזירו אותם הביתה עכשיו, עומדים על הכביש וצועקים ומפגינים, וזה היה הרגע שמילא אותי בהכי הרבה תקווה מתחילת המלחמה.
אותי אישית כל רגע בבית ספר ממלא תקווה. כל רגע שאני רואה שזה אפשרי, ממלא אותי בתקווה, ואני מתכנן לעתיד להתגייס לשירות לאומי בכבאות והצלה לישראל. ואני מתכוון להישאר בארץ הזאת, אני מתכוון לחיות פה, לגדל את הילדים שלי כמו שאני גדלתי פה, ותמיד לשאוף לגשר פערים בין החברה היהודית והחברה הערבית, כי אם לא אנחנו נתקן, מי כן?
אז אנחנו רוצים לקרוא באמת לכל הנוער במדינה הזאת, לקחת את האחריות בידיים בשביל עתיד טוב יותר לארץ הזאת, כי באמת אם לא אנחנו, מי כן?
Okay, so this was a flavor both from the conference. I mean, they took the stand, as they said, and they spoke to a full room of almost 300 or 400 participants in the conference. This was also live streamed and recorded, so it's also on our website, and we're getting a lot of people to watch this, and we're glad that you tasted it. You'll meet those kids when you come in February next year. But this shows that, I mean, it gives you a flavor of what we do. We deal with the tough issues. We're not, Givat Haviva doesn't shy away from dealing with the difficult issues. We're not just about eating hummus together, and we're not just about singing peace songs, but we also talk about the difficult topics. The kids engage in dialogue about different perspectives. Sometimes they do come to agreements, sometimes they do not come to agreements. Our goal is not to bring a political perspective that they need to to subscribe to, but to be able to engage in constructive dialogue, in constructive discussion, in which they can understand the perspective of each other. And maybe if they find it correct, maybe if they want to change perspective, they're welcome to do so. But we're not there to force them to change perspective or to accept the perspective that we're trying to enforce on them. We're going to, Michal and I, for the next few minutes, we're going to share with you few of the strategies that Givat Haviva has been working on over the last 16 months, mostly affected by the atmosphere in which we shared with you. In 24, we refrained from doing encounters between Jewish and Arab youth. We did what we call uninational encounters. We're working with the Jewish kids separately, with the Arab kids separately, because we were afraid that those encounters might result with explosive results, meaning that we might be doing more damage than good. Usually in crisis time, this is not the best time to bring about people to closer to perspective. People usually come to be representatives of their identity, representatives of their narrative, and they're not that much even willing to listen. So we decided in 24 to continue with working with the schools that we work with, but with in a separate performance. We sent our Jewish and Arab facilitators to the Jewish schools separately and to Arab schools separately, which is not the case in 25. In 25, we already started with binational encounters. Michal will elaborate more on that. We're meeting some significant challenges. We are adapting the program in a way that it can absorb the anger and frustration that has accumulated over the last 16 months. But we started dealing with it. I believe we've had till now 12 pairs of schools, 12 Arab and 12 Jewish schools in 2025 only, that have come in the last 2 months, that have come for binational encounters. So we know sometimes when to sort of pull out from a certain tactic or strategy or a component of a program, which was the binational encounters with high school kids. And now we're putting it back in place, but with a different technique, not with the same way we did it in 23. The same thing also, we grew many of our programs into a whole different level. We felt that this is the time to focus on leadership training that expresses itself in a number of projects that also Michal will expand on them, but it's not, especially during crisis time, the work on numbers is not enough. To get, instead of 17,000 kids, to get 18,000 kids and maybe grow to 22,000 kids, that's not enough. We want to work with people that have what we call multiple impact potential. And with multiple impact potential, you need to bring people that have leadership potential. So we developed a whole new leadership department at Givat Haviva that has a number of projects in it that aim not just to transfer the capacity of the individual, but the capacity of an individual that can transfer other people in the process. We also have been focusing a lot on the academic scene, working in universities to try to do two things. One, what we call de-escalation, reduction of the tension between Jewish and Arab students, but also capacity building of the professors and the university management, so to deal with the problems and prevent eruption of violence between students. as well as re-engaging Jewish and Arab mayors in a number of programs that are trying to maintain good neighborly relations between the neighboring Jewish and Arab towns. Michal, you want to continue with the strategy?
Yeah, I think another point that we've been thinking about for maybe 2 or 3 years, but now we think it's the time to do it, is that, as you know, Givat Haviva is the largest and oldest church society organization in Israel because it's really tiny. Many times when people ask me what I do and I say I run Givat Haviva, they're like, "Oh my God, I remember I was there when I was 12," or even like my first kiss was in a seminar in Givat Haviva, like these kind of things. Which is nice and cute on one hand. On the other, there's a lot of potential in it, right? Because if we believe the church society education actually changed something in a person, and maybe I think it's the first indicator to say if a person will support a more like liberal democratic approach to the state, then there's a lot of power, right, in this group of alumni of Givat Haviva. But of course, it's a very old organization, so we don't have all the data. And for a few years now, we thought how can we create this like alumni network of Givat Haviva when we don't really have knowledge about like where these people are, right? And this year, we think that we're going to start this network using a national campaign, just calling for people who were once part of Givat Haviva's program. We can do it through social media, through the radio, or even television. And to just try to get this data, try to get these people. Of course, in the last few years, we are getting the data of people that are coming to our programs, but I'm talking about the early years. And we're very excited about it because we think it can help us create this community of grown-ups, right? Not students, but grown-ups that maybe Givat Haviva was something special for them, and maybe they were part of the shared society community or shared society educational community in Israel. And we can do a lot of things with these people. You can do all kind of events. You can have political power, not like a party power, but political power to make change. But also we can have a community of supporters for this activity, for these values, and for the way that we want to see Israel going toward, the path we want to see Israel going to. That's one thing. And the other that I think Muhammad talked about is expanding our leadership department and leadership programs, but also taking responsibility over the field of shared society. As you know, our education department is the largest department, and most of the people working in the field of shared society were part of Givat Haviva's program at a certain point in their life. So I don't know if you know, but the coordinators training course of Givat Haviva with the Hebrew University is considered to be the best shared society education or dialogue education course. And now we're also going to have like a phase 2 to this course. So like giving more training for coordinators in our field, even if they're not working for Givat Haviva, but they're working as coordinators for shared society education or dialogue education. I think these are the main points that we're going to work on this year.
Before we go into the discussion part for the next few minutes, I also want to announce that in September we have 2 projects from Givat Haviva that are coming to the United States. One is a delegation of 4 participants and a counselor from the program called Through Others' Eyes, which is a photography course that lasts for a year for Jewish and Arab high school kids. They meet every Thursday for 4 hours. They study photography and engage in dialogue and end up with a wonderful exhibition. They're going to be coming to the New York area. Their schedule has been arranged by Bob and Pam Gluck that are here with us. but Sadie from our New York office will also be assisting with that, and they'll also be going to Cincinnati. So if you are in the New York area or Cincinnati area, make sure that you connect with us and you can see the participants in the program. The other program that is coming to the United States is our Artists in Residency program. We bring 6 Arab and 6 Jewish fresh graduates from art schools, from universities that have just graduated, and they come to Givat Haviva for a shared residency program for 3 months. They work together, they cooperate in their individual work portfolio, but also create a shared exhibition. 6 of those participants have been invited to Duke University Art Institute, and they will be coming in September to Duke University. I see that Barbara wants them to come to Canada. If we can work together in creating the opportunity, we're happy to do that. But they will be in the US for about 6 weeks, and which means that they will be available for doing other gigs, maybe other than the residency that will be at Duke University. Duke University, by the way, generously extended this invitation for the artists in residency for 3 consecutive years. So you'll see this program happening in the United States for the next 3 years. This leaves us a few minutes for comments, questions, answers. Michal, Yuval, and myself are available to attend to these questions or comments. When I don't get anything, I usually think either we were very confusing or we're very convincing. I don't know which one of them. I see some people writing in chat, so there's some kind of interaction. All right, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to know, with your approach to generating dialogue between the people involved in the program, the young people, is there like a particular structure or approach that you use? If there is like a particular structure or approach, is there something that we could see that sort of maybe outlines it and that we could follow or learn from?
Well, first of all, you can find this actually in a book that we produced 3 years ago, a book called From Coexistence to Shared Society, the Givat Haviva model. And it's, I would say, almost half of it is very theoretic. So it's more of an academic part. The other half is very practical. And it basically it presents 3 theories that we rely on, what we call the social contact theory, which usually deals with breaking stereotypes and humanization of the other. The second area is dialogue and engaging in narrative or identity discourse to talk about the differences where we agree or where we do not agree. And the third theory focuses on mutual interests. It's called the superordinate goal theory. Now, not every program has a third of each. It depends on the clients, on the participants. So with younger kids, it's mostly the soft approach, which is the social contact theory. With high school kids, we integrate both the narrative identity discourse plus the mutual interests. But the issue of mutual interest is the dominant among all of the different programs that we do, the 30 some programs that Michal mentioned. You will always find the common denominator is about the mutual interests and interdependency and cooperation and partnership. But sometimes you need to go through this debate and discussion and narrative debate and identity debate. And sometimes, with younger kids, they're not equipped with the tools to engage in a debate. So we focus more on the issues in which they have in common. And it's the softer approach, the social contact theory.
Thank you.
Millie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I love the newish strategy of finding the alumni from Givat Haviva programs, connecting them with the new leadership initiative, connect them to those very powerful students that we heard from in the video. I think it's to use old terminology, they're a great group of change agents, and I think could be very, very powerful. So I think that's great. I look forward to if any of them are in other parts of the world, like the US or Germany or France, where some of us have joined the call, we can also connect up to them in our locales and bring them into the fold. So very exciting work.
Josh?
I have a question. I was at your program, very impressed about a month ago. You may remember.
Yes, I remember welcoming you.
Yes. And I'm working on many things, but one of them is the facilitators, for the schools or the teachers in the schools, to help with dialoguing. And I just want to know, and I have some contacts in that area, but how can we collaborate, make sure that I can send these people to you, or what's the organization, and what specifically would you be looking for, and that's the first part of the question. The second part is, would you accept English-speaking people for the dialogue? And I know that there's an issue because you'd have to do it on Zoom and, with the teachers, but so I'm looking for a little bit more, specific information to help me with this project.
Thank you, Ken. Clearly we would need to have a different chat to go into the details of how we engage English speakers into our facilitators training. Happy to talk to you in person in more specific details about that. But thank you for your willingness. Yes, we can offer content in English. What Yuval presented here is a whole school that operates in English on campus with 150 students and about 50 staff members, and the only language they speak is English. So we have that capacity, and happy to engage with you in identifying the specific engagement with you. Shosh?
Yes, thank you very much. Very inspirational. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. And this is sort of a big picture question, just because I'm thinking of the various family members I have in Israel. One is a young 30-something who would be right there at your school. And like me, my heart is completely with you. And in fact, I think there is no other way than what you're doing. But then I'm thinking of the Chabad relatives who would be mortified to see the Jewish girl and the Arab boy. That's exactly what they're terrified. I mean, and with they didn't used to be such a force. I mean, I'm old, but in my youth it was, and now it's huge. This very racial. I'm just describing the reality of like, oh my God, I'm glad Michael is not listening into this call. Whereas Yair would be right here. So obviously you think about this. So I just wanted to remark on that, and maybe you want to say something.
I think you're right. The situation is getting extreme every day. But what I will say to your Chabad family member is that what we discovered in the school is that the fact that you're studying or even living in the same boarding school with a Muslim guy or a Jewish girl or whatever, it doesn't mean that it has like a negative effect over your sense of identity. Actually, the opposite happens, right? What happens is that when they meet the other, when they know the other, they actually have a more profound, more robust identity. And it doesn't mean that I'm sure that what the Chabad member is afraid of is that, you know, a Jewish girl will like leave Judaism or something like that. And actually, the opposite happens. Most of the time, they discover what Judaism is for them, what is the Jewish identity, or what is the Muslim identity, or the Palestinian identity, or the Israeli-Palestinian identity. All these kind of things, that's exactly what kids or youth supposed to do. They're supposed to discover themselves, but it's better to do that when you're not totally ignorant.
I could maybe add to that, maybe just 2 points.
And I will add just one quick comment on this.
Yeah.
Just one quick
just to
comment,
say that,
Yuval.
yeah.
We also learned is that you know, it's go ahead, Yuval.
Okay. Just to refer to what Michal just said for a moment, I think that when students come to campus, one of the first things they feel is a need to represent their own communities. And particularly being Jewish or being Muslim or being Christian or whatever background they bring with them, they sort of feel that they need to represent this background. So the first thing that happens is, I think, a deepening sense of identity. And this goes through the entire program. And they indicated when they complete the program, their understanding and their sense of identity and belonging to their own communities is much stronger. And also to say, just, you know, statistically, after 7 years of operations, we have not seen any coupling that we could say, okay, this is where the school is leading. So I don't see this. I know that from the outside it might seem a little worrying, but I think that reality shows that it really isn't.
Just to be clear, you understand it's not worrying to me. I just know the mentality.
I understand.
We totally
and I
got
think
it.
you read something very, very concrete. Yeah.
I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I will give Jonathan Grouper one chance to say, you know, half a minute if you have a question or comment. And then we will maybe answer it or not, depends on how big the question. And we will finish within 2 minutes max.
I appreciate it. It's a quickie. Can you hear my voice? Yes, great.
Barely.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michael and Yuval, Mohammed knows me. I'm a filmmaker, and so my question is selfish, which is we heard from the opening speaker, Mr. Seibert, that there is a reluctance for people to speak out about Gaza. It's coming from the government, I gather, and of course societally. And I wondered if the same could be said for shared society issues. Is there pressure where people don't feel up for speaking openly about it these days?
Well, there is a sense of silencing that policies that we're experiencing, and you can feel the impact on the kids that come to Givat Haviva, that some of them do not really engage as openly in discussions, especially Arab kids that are afraid to speak up openly in their mind. You can feel it also with higher level people. You know, today, an Arab journalist called Saeed Hassanein was arrested for expressing certain perspectives. And if he's arrested, then you can be sure that that is a lesson to many other people in the Arab community not to speak up and not to say what they think. And so if you speak and you present your perspective, you might get punished by the government. If you do not speak, then you are suspected that you're hiding something. And that creates a great deal of suspicion among the Jewish participants in our dialogue programs. But also certain organizations are afraid of speaking up because sometimes they're dependent on their funding on government sources. And this is probably the worst government and worst political ecosystem in which we've been operating since the creation of the state of Israel in perspective of Jewish Arab relations. So yes, it is very difficult, and I think that the political pressure is on the individuals and the organizations at the same time. And Michal, you want to say closing words before we end?
Just
Thank you. Thank you.
sorry. Just a quick thank you for all of you for your support and your friendship. And it's been a very tough and challenging year, I have to say. And we get a lot of strength from knowing that we do have your support, and there are people all around the world that do believe in a better future for Israel and for our society. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we will schedule another meeting in about 2 to 3 months from now. Thank you for everyone from from many time zones. We have people from California all the way to Israel. So thank you very much for being with us.